Hello, my name is Chip Tolson, and I like writing, mostly fiction, often short stories. But today I want to tell you about a Somerset farm cart. This is mainly fact, but also some fiction within. In 1949, my family, my father and mother, and us two brothers, moved to the village of Thurloxton. That is midway between Taunton and Bridgewater. We moved into a Crown Estate cottage, which had previously been the home of Jim Porter. He was a wheelwright and made farm carts and many other things. In 1994, when I was living back in Somerset, I went to a farm auction. I had gone there specifically to buy a small trailer to go behind my car to carry various things like bales of hay and things like that. But while I was there, I spied amongst the lots for sale some farm carts. There were 3 hay wains with double axles, but the 4th cart was a Somerset tipping putt. And on the back, emblazoned proudly, was the word J. Porter, builder, Thurloxton. I knew at once who had made that cart, and, very troubling if you're at an auction, I decided I had to buy it. Well, the auction went on, moving around, but eventually came to this lot number 120, if I remember right. 2 people were bidding for it. 1 dropped out, and I came into the bidding. It gradually moved up from £250 in £20, and then in £10, and then in £5 movements. And I bought the cart for £350. I wasn't certain how I was going to be able to get it home, but next day I hired a low-loader trailer, and 93-year-old Percy Adams, who had been the farmer selling, helped me load it onto the trailer. He told me that he had gone as a 17-year-old to collect the cart, taking his horse the 7 miles over, and he arrived in Thurloxton as the church bells were ringing. Now, I'd like to show you the farm cart. I hope you can see this. That is a Somerset tipping putt. It tips up, is the workhorse of the farm trade. In its day, it was the GTX of its type. On a single axle the size of a railway sleeper, with yard-high wooden wheels, iron rimmed. And that day, the cart looked exactly as it had when it was delivered, only the paintwork faded. Maybe 1 or 2 floorboards had been replaced. I got the cart home, bringing it up to the edge of Exmoor, where I now live. And we stored it in a farm barn. There it remained for many years. Here the cart was in storage. It was undercover and it didn't deteriorate at all. Now perhaps I can be admitted a little bit of license, and this is a little bit of fiction. I've called it the tipping putt. November dawn broke at 20 minutes after 7, shedding its weak light on frosted meadows, illuminating spiders' webs woven across faded summer thistles. Percy finished morning milking. 5 beasts through the parlour, 2 others in the linhay waiting on winter calves. Percy had 1 churn of milk to roll out to the stand for the village dairyman. The other, the smaller churn, he took to the farmhouse for making butter and cream. This was a big day on the farm. Word had come through the cart was ready. The tipping putt his father, Edmund Adams, had discussed at Bridgewater Market with Walter Winslade. Percy was to take Betsy, their working horse, walking her 8 miles over to collect the cart. Walter, the Shearston blacksmith, had made the metal fittings at his forge. His friend, Jim Porter, the Thurloxton wheelwright, had built the cart. It was quiet in the lanes, but on the high road were motor vehicles that didn't pause when passing. Percy kept chatting to the horse, nearly 20 years old, 3 years his senior, keeping her calm. Father had said Percy wasn't to go to France. He was needed on the farm, but he would be conscripted once he had his 18th birthday. True, he was doing much of the farm work and had been since he was 13, leaving school when his brother, Giles, volunteered and went to war. Percy had made up his mind to go if the war wasn't ended. Father would get by somehow. They all missed Giles. Once on the lane up to Shearston, away from the motor lorries, Betsy had a lighter step. The vehicle noises had unnerved her. "Mr. Winslade, I'm Edmund's boy. Come to collect the cart." "It isn't here, boy. You'll need to get to Jim Porter's yard. The putt is there and ready and bright as a button in its paintwork." "Where do I find he?" "I'll get the maid to guide you," and he shouted to the house. "Phoebe!" Percy watched the girl, judging her a year or 2 younger than himself. She dried her hands on her apron, looked at her father, then at Percy, sizing him up. "You take young Percy to Jim Porter's yard." They walked the mile to Thurloxton, striding either side of the farm. "You want to get up, Betsy? Phoebe? You think I can't walk?" They walked on, not talking, turning in by the wheelwright's cottage. In front of the workshop stood the cart, a Somerset putt, its reds and blues brilliant in the Monday morning sunshine. Hesitant at first, then in a full peal, the church bells rang out. Percy watched Jim Porter standing proud by the tipping putt, the long shafts resting on a trestle, ready for the horse. "Why the bells ringing, Mr. Porter? 'Tis Monday today." "Don't you know, Phoebe? It's the armistice. The war is finished." "And the lads will be home for Christmas?" Phoebe clutched Jim Porter's hand. Jim looked over to Percy. "Not all of them back home, Phoebe." The young man fiddled with the buckles on Betsy's traces. Phoebe turned, blonde locks ruffling in the breeze. She reached up and kissed Percy's cheek. Well, the Somerset putt stayed with us for almost 25 years. But then, as the memorials were given to the First World War, we decided it was time the cart went back to Thurloxton. And so we gifted the cart back to Thurloxton, and it arrived there in time for their First World War celebrations of the armistice. And it is now back in the village where it was built, 100 years after its work by Jim Porter, the wheelwright, and Walter Winslade, the blacksmith. If you should ever want to see it, do stop off in Thurloxton. It's between Taunton and Bridgewater, just off the A38, and the cart's on display there to commemorate not only the two men who made it, but the many men from the villages all over Somerset who went to war early in the century. Thank you for listening.